Hi, I'm Alan, and welcome back to this new series of Heptabase tutorials. This is the third video of the entire series, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how to use tags and properties in Heptabase. In the previous video, we have already shown you how you can use whiteboards to organize your cards into different learning and research topics. However, as you might have already noticed in the left sidebar, in Heptabase, you can also organize your cards using tags. So that leads to an important question, which is when should and why should I use tag instead of whiteboard to organize my notes? The short answer is you don't need to use tag unless you find it useful. But that brings us to another question, which is when will tag ever be more useful than whiteboards? Well, I'm not planning to give you a long theoretical explanation of why tag is useful, but instead, I'll just show by an example to let you see when you might want to use tag. So here, I have a whiteboard that's called semiconductor supply chain. So let's imagine that you have some savings and you are becoming like an investor, which you want to invest these savings into some of the popular company in the market. And you realize that, modern technology is all powered by semiconductor. So you are looking into the semiconductor industry and all the company inside it. And one thing that most Heptabase users would do is they will create these whiteboard and put a lot of different companies into it, categorize them into different sections and see the relationship between these supply chain. For example, there's a fabless design company like NVIDIA, Apple, and Qualcomm, and AMD. And there's also foundries company like TSMC, Global Foundries. And there's also companies that's doing equipment like ASML and Applied Materials. So there's all these different companies in the semiconductor supply chain. But the next question is, what should I invest? Just by staring at this whiteboard, you'll notice that we still lack a lot of information. For example, we don't know the stock price of these companies. We don't know the revenue of these companies. We don't know where these companies are located. And we also don't know what is the leadership and how trustworthy is the leader of this company. We have zero information of all these data just by staring at this whiteboard. So despite that this whiteboard gives us a useful representation of the industry, it doesn't really have enough information to guide us on investing our money. So this is actually the case where tag can be more useful than whiteboard. So let me just multi-select all the cards on this whiteboard and give it a tag called company. And let's enter this tag. You'll notice that all the cards that we selected are now displayed in the table view of this tag. For example, I want to track the stock prices of this company. What I can do is I can simply add a number properties, and let's just call it stock price and USD. And I can just type the number of them. For example, this one is 67.76, and this one stock price is 119.65. This one is 1245.1, and this one is 884.55, and the Qualcomm is 166.92. Like this, I can simply add the stock price and compare them in one glance. I can also add maybe revenue of this company and make it $1 billion companies. So for the revenue, the revenue of Marvel, it seems to be 5.92, and the revenue for AMD is 22.7. The revenue of Broadcom is 35.8. The revenue of NVIDIA is 27, and the revenue of Qualcomm is 35.82. So now we can see the stock price and also the revenue. And I might also want to add the property of whether I have invested in these companies already. So this, I create a checkbox, call it to do, call it invested. And for example, let's say I have invested in NVIDIA and Qualcomm, I can just put a check on it. And I can also, for example, add a leadership, like to add the CEO of a company by choosing a relation to another tag. And let's find the tag. I have another tag called CEO, and when I choose it, I can create a relation between this tag and that tag. So CEO is actually another tag. You can see in this tag, I have the name of the CEO and like the start date of the CEO. So in the company tag, I can just easily choose the card from the CEO tag, like Matthew Murphy is a CEO of Marvel, and Lisa Su is a CEO of AMD, and then Hawk 10 is a CEO of Broadcom. NVIDIA, I think it's Jensen Huang, and Qualcomm is Cristiano Amon. So in that way, I can, create these kind of relations across cards that are under different tag. And let's enter this card. You can see the backlink also exists from the relation property. Not only can I create new properties on the tag, I can also add some properties that already exist in other tags. For example, I can click plus button here and see that there's a text property called insight. And I have been using this property across another 3 tags. And I just also want to use this property in this tag as well. So let me choose it and call it insight. And so for example, I have some insight about NVIDIA, like they sell a lot of GPUs, which is important to AI revolution. By that, and let me wrap cells so I can see like the entire content here. I can just add some of the insight to this company as well as all the other companies. So now we have like all this information laying in front of me. I can also kind of, add a sort function to sort them by, let's sort them by revenue, right? And some of the companies below here, I haven't really researched yet. So I can also add a status property. Let's just choose the select and call it research status. And in this, I can set this one is researched. This one is also research as well. And this one is ongoing. And this one is also ongoing. And this one is next up. Right. And I'll put some of the other company into the backlog. So now I have a status property where I can show my research status. So imagine that I create a kanban view. I can see like the companies that I have already researched on, the companies that is still in backlog, and the company I'm currently researching on. So whenever I finish a research for a company, I just simply drag it to another column in the kanban view. And if I want to hide all the cards that has no research status, I can simply create a custom filter where I choose the research status and only display the card that is not empty. So that way I can easily just see all the cards that have research status. That's it. That's a brief introduction of how you can use tag for your learning and research. And I hope like within this example, you can see like how in some scenarios, tag could be more useful than whiteboard. The key insight that I want to convey in this video is that tag and whiteboard, they have very different strengths. Whiteboard is particularly good at breaking down complex knowledge into atomic pieces and connect them and visualize them and like better see the relationship between ideas. So for example, if you are reading a book, you are watching online courses or reading very long articles, you can easily use whiteboard to break things down and make sense of them. But on the other hand, tag is particularly good at comparing notes that has the same type. Like for example, in our demo today, we are using tag to compare many different types of company, right? And we compare like the key information such as stock price and revenue and some of the insight that we have. Like you can see all this information at one glance in the dense format. And that is what tag is very good at. You usually don't use tag to organize a topic, but you use tag to organize notes that has the same type. For example, like in my, like these are all the tags that I personally use in my daily life. I have some tag that is purely to record meeting, like meeting notes. Like every single card inside this tag is a meeting note that happens at a specific date with a specific person. And investor update, this is a tag where I every month as a CEO of a company, I write an investor update to our investors, and I store that investor update in this tag. And I also have tag for like all the feature requests that our users send. I have a tag for all the users that I have interviewed before. I have tag for some of the draft that I am planning to publish on my blog. And I also have tag for, all the tasks, like the bigger task that I have to work on, like over the course of the past 2 years. And you can see that the name of this tag, like it's not a topic. It's not a topic like semiconductor supply chain. No, it's a description of what this type of card is about. Like it's a meeting, it's an investor update, it's a tag. So you don't use tag for researching a topic. You use tag to organize a note that has the same type. And when you do that, you'll find tag much more useful. All right, that's everything I want to cover in this video about tags and properties. As I mentioned in the beginning, you don't need to use tag unless you find it useful. But if you decide to use it, I highly recommend you to follow some of the tips that I provide in this tutorial. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how you can use journal and task to construct your daily workflow in Heptabase. And I'm looking forward to see you there.